Hi, Corey with Gold Rush Expeditions. We're just outside of Shenandoah City in the Star Range, and we found a mine here that we're going to take a peek at. Unfortunately, the wind is just kicking, so we are going to dash in the mine, see if we can't get a little break from this wind for a few minutes, and maybe by the time we come out, we'll catch a little break. So we'll see you soon. So we're inside the mine here. This mine doesn't actually have a name that we've been able to historically find yet. We have to do a little bit more digging. There's nothing on the maps, but it's a big cut. You can see up above me, there's a lot of mineralization. Almost this whole tunnel. So from about this line where you can see, coming all the way over here, is all mineralized. Now, your best chance for your gold and your good minerals is going to be in this really dark iron stain stuff, but we might find some really good exposed stuff in here. So we're going to take a little wander through, take a look at it, see where we're going. Once again, don't freak out about the helmet. We've already been through here. We're just giving you kind of a tour now of what's in here. So we know nothing's going to fall. So we're in the Star District here. These mines, like we mentioned, are all 1850s, 1860s is when they started. A lot of money was made out of here. One of the reasons you don't see a ton of history is just because the way the state of Utah has been, it's always been a very anti-mining state. Even though we've got Kennecott out here, or Rio Tinto as it is now, the gold, the minerals, everything has really been downplayed. There's a video put out, I believe it's called, I want to say it's called The Treasure State, but it talks about how much actual gold and silver is in Utah compared to the other western states. But I'll digress that one. We're inside here, and what you can see is we've got some newer construction. So this is probably, if I had to throw a guess out, probably 1950s, 1960s, maybe up even into the 1970s. Once again, proof that people were out here and that they're making money in these mines. You can see this. This is probably a similar marking to what you usually see with how many bits of ore have come out. You can see there's some more up here, but this kind of tells me that they had some sort of power drills at the time, so it was easy enough to just go and say, okay, there's another cart of ore coming out. This whole piece right here would have been for machinery, and the way it's set up here, you would have had to have a motor and then have that winch kind of inverted to come up here, and then you can see some of the wear here where they chopped out so that everything fit perfectly, and then would drop down into the shaft to pull out the ore that was down here. It's really cool. It's the kind of ingenuity that's really cool to see inside a mine. There is a lot of writing here, but you can also see that it's really dark, and that kind of gives me more indications. Well, that looks like it might be a 1940 something. So it gives me a little indication it's a little bit newer, because the really old time stuff you see will be really gray, really faded, and not very defined at all. When you're inside these mines, as was just brought to my attention, you need to be able to look at all the different angles, look at the different sides, because seeing something from a different side can show you something totally different. You can see up here, there's our old carbide markings of buckets of ore that are pulled out up here. So you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. It's 20 probably coming out of like 1-ton buckets, I would guess, is probably as big as they can get out here. Is still a good amount of ore. Hugely mineralized all through here, so it's going to be interesting to see what we find down below. We are just wrapping up this site. Really big mine, a lot of workings in it. But I want to take a second and talk about what you see kind of sitting right here behind me. What this is an old miner's cabin. As you can see, time and elements have had its way with it. It's coming down pretty quickly, but it is a pretty significant piece of history out here. Something to think about. Nowadays, there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do with our mining claims, and one of the big things that we want to do with Gold Rush here is kind of change some of that. A big piece of that is people are not able to build on their claims anymore without posting some huge ungodly bond that they're going to rip it down and restore everything to the pristine land the way it was way before they found it. I don't think that's the right thing to do, and here's kind of the reason why. If these old prospectors had been beat up on the same kind of rules that we have, we wouldn't have this history to know that they were here, or why they were here, or what they were doing, or that they'd even done much at all. All these structures right now, I'm sure in the 1950s and 1960s, weren't looked at as anything very significant, because they were only, at that time, probably 50, 60 years old. They were cool to a few people, and you see some pictures like that, but not a lot. If we could kind of turn that around nowadays in mining claims, and you could build on your claim, our kids and their kids might have something to come out and look at 100, 150 years from now when this is all gone. They might come back and look at something that we constructed and left out here in the hills for them to find too. It's history. It's all a matter of how you make history. So just wanted something for you to think about. Kind of an interesting concept. We've talked about it before, but what are we leaving behind for the future generations to find? Will there even be any reason for our kids or their kids to go out on land and look around at anything? Because honestly, you don't go out and look at the environment. I mean, you might look at some rocks, but if you guys have friends anything like we have, people go out and they see rocks and it's pretty, and then you see something man-made and you're like, ooh, what's that? Let's go look at that. What is that? And suddenly you're super interested. Your kids are super interested. So it's the history that people leave behind, not necessarily the planet leaves behind, that is really interesting to most people. So for Gold Rush Expeditions, I'm Corey Schumann, and we'll see you at the next site.